Cajun capital of the world.
I'm the average Lafayette, Louisiana kid.
See, I'm back on my...
Hey, fellas. Hey, Brady Review said, congratulations. Say what's up, y'all. Yeah!
People that have courage don't have no extra gene and no difference in you. The difference is, are you going to sit down when it's time to stand up?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another edition of Rage and Review. Tonight we go behind enemy lines with the voice of the JMU Dukes, Dave Riggert. Dave, how are you doing, sir?
I am good, gentlemen. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. It has been a while. We connected in the fall. Of course, UL went over to your place and got their butts whooped by the Dukes in football. And that was an unfortunate situation for us. But, you mentioned you were dealing with some spring football stuff today. So I do want to go back into the football realm and say that when we talked about you, you're preparing for a matchup with Louisiana that eventually led to a trip to the CFP, which is absolutely amazing. And I want to know from you, man, because we're all jealous that you got to make the trip as a Sun Belt representative. What was that like?
It was incredible. I mean, I don't even know how to put it into words, honestly. It was probably more than what I even expected. Being in this business, you hope someday you get a chance to call games like that and call games on the biggest stage. And, being at JMU or at Louisiana or anywhere in the Sun Belt, you hope the goal was always to kind of make March Madness. And we did that a couple of years ago at JMU and then played up in Brooklyn and got a victory over Wisconsin. And that was kind of a dream come true to call March Madness and get a win, play Duke in round 2 and come up short, but still be a part of all that. That was incredible. But when JMU made the jump from the FCS to the FBS, 5 years ago almost, a lot of people around here, and myself included a little bit, because that was my first year of calling games at JMU, was their last year at FCS. And we were so used to the playoff format and getting to the semifinals every single year and, making a national championship more times than not. And so that was kind of the norm around here that, playoff football, and it's just a different feel when it's one and done. And at the FBS level, we're going to have a bowl game, and that's it. I mean, there's nothing more than that. It's just a bowl game. And so for 4 years later to come to fruition, and in the second year that we're even eligible to be in the CFP, to make it, again, we had to have all the dominoes fall our way late in the year. We had the ACC championship to go our way, and everything. All the cards fell how they were supposed to. And I know some people were upset and everything that 2 G5s got in or G6s got in, but hey, that's the cards that everybody was dealt. It wasn't our fault. It was the ACC's fault. It was the rules that were set in place, and JMU did what they were supposed to do. So it was an incredible experience. And to go to Autzen, I think it made it even more enjoyable just to go up there and see that atmosphere. I've never been in a louder venue. They were really nice up there. They were very cordial. We got to tour the facility the night before. We had a meeting, and then they're just like, hey, you want to tour the facilities? And I'm just like, absolutely, let's check it all out. And obviously they've got a lot of money with their Nike money. And we saw Phil Knight at the game the next day. They closed the elevator down so that he could come up and get to his suite and everything. But they're building a brand new indoor. We practiced in their indoor, and they're building a brand new indoor that's supposed to be the longest, the widest, the tallest indoor. It almost looks like SoFi Stadium, but it's just their indoor facility. So, and they have a perfectly good one, but now they're building a brand new one that's going to be the best ever. And again, it does show what those schools at that level have compared to what we have here in the Sun Belt. And for JMU to be a part of that, it was something special. And then just to be a part of the game, and things didn't go our way early. Played well in the second half and kept it a game for a while. But just to be a part of the game and the atmosphere, and I was watching. There was the Miami Texas A&M game. I think kicked off at noon or whatever time earlier that day, and all the pageantry that's going around that. I'm just like, man, I'm going to be a part of a game like that here in about 7 hours. So I took it all in, and I told all of our fans that too. Because just like Raging Cajun fans, they're a little fanatical and aren't always realistic. And so now they think this is the norm at JMU, that we're supposed to be in the college football playoff every single year. I told all of our fans, and I don't know if they listened, but I told them, take all of this in because it may not ever happen again. It may never happen again. It's going to be so hard to be the one team, because they're not let two in anymore. It's going to be one team from the group of 6 to make it every single year, and you've got to have a magical year, almost be undefeated. So this may never happen again. Maybe it's a once in a 10-year, 15-year situation, but take it all in, experience it all, and just enjoy the entire ride. And that's what I did. It was pretty remarkable. It was something that I'll never forget. It was once in a lifetime.
Yeah, and much more difficult because, of course, they're going to change the rules so the 2G5 thing never happens again. But
that's right.
The arms race, it's all ridiculous. We're talking about college sports in the end, which makes it gives you a little more perspective on how ridiculous this all is. But staying on the football front, Coach Chesney moved on to UCLA. The Duke's looking for a new head coach. You guys stabbed us right in the heart. And had us all the feels with
I was waiting for
Coach
that one.
Napier. Yeah, of course you were. Talk to us a little bit about Coach Napier. Have you spent any time with him? I know he's going to be an absolute. I know the folks there are going to treat him so well because Coach Napier and his family are just such great people. But talk to us a little bit about the Billy Napier experience you've had in the first few months he's been in that role.
I'm sure this comes as no surprise, but he is an unbelievable human being, first of all, and that's the first and foremost. That's what I love about him is that he's very genuine. The first time I met him, we had a great conversation, not even about football or he was about my family and his family and just, things like that. Sometimes you run into coaches and it's all football all the time. Kurt Signetti was that way. I mean, I had a great relationship with Coach Signetti, but it's all football all the time. Later on, we maybe got into some other things, but Coach Napier is an unbelievable human being, and he has hit the ground running. He told us right away, one of his first press conferences, after he was let go at Florida and he was kind of being pursued for this job, once the job opened up, that he came up on his own, kind of on his own recruiting visit, so to speak. And they didn't bring him up, but he flew up on his own just to kind of check out campus, see what it's all about and everything like that after they had reached out to him. And he's just like, this place is different, man. He's just like, this is like the elite of the Sun Belt. And so when he said that, having been at Florida, having been at Louisiana and some different places along the way, he thinks that he can win here. And obviously it's been proven in the past that you can win here. He's done a tremendous job of putting a staff together. He's got a recruiting department that they've never had before, and they've had success. So I think that he's hit the ground running. I think he brought in some great football players, some great coaches, and the expectations are high. The one thing that I've loved about Coach Napier is that he has not been afraid to carry over things that have worked here in the past. Some coaches will come in and it's their way or the highway. This is how I've always done it, and this is how I'm going to do it. I talked to the previous strength coach that's at UCLA now, and he was here for a year. He works with Coach Chesney. He went with Coach Chesney, and he called me out of the blue just to catch up. And he said that Coach Lockwood, who's now the strength and conditioning coach that came in with Coach Napier, he came from Michigan, and he said that he called the staff at UCLA to kind of get some ideas on, hey, what did you do that was successful? And then he was just like, some of the other assistant coaches have done that. They called our coaches that are at UCLA now, and Coach Napier has been wide open about that. And I was at practice earlier this week, and the practice is similar to what Coach Chesney was doing. He got to see them prepare for the CFP. He was here. He was at the practices. He saw what worked and what doesn't work here. He talked to those coaches. He learned himself of how things work here and why things work here, the culture of James Madison and why it's been so successful the last 25 years. So I love that he's been able to adjust and really embrace all the success of the past and then incorporate what he wants to do into that. And I think it's a home run hire. I think he's the perfect guy for the job with where he is in his life right now. And after the Florida experiment, I think he could be here for a while too. I really do.
Is he calling his own plays this year?
He is not. He is not.
Okay.
Now, he'll probably have some say in it, but I know Louisiana fans and especially Florida fans are his first press conference, I asked him that. I had a one-on-one with him. I asked him that. And he's just like, no, I'm going to hire a coordinator. And for the first time in my career, I'm going to have somebody else call plays. And the Florida fans blew up that post on social media.
Well, that's
because
a whole special
finally
group of people.
he's going to let somebody else do it. But he's hired an offensive coordinator. Now they're going to work hand in hand, I'm sure. But he's going to let somebody else call plays for the first time and kind of be a CEO of the entire organization.
Yeah. I think some coaches need to take notes from that. Dave, before we move on to baseball, just want to ask, 2027, I think do we travel to JMU, Lane, or do they come here in 27?
We don't know that yet.
We don't know
because they won't come out the next year.
I hope you guys come.
We're hoping
because we're tired of going over there. Right?
We would come to your place the next time, but it may not be till 28.
Well, regardless, I expect that
we'll come to your place though.
Yeah, he'll still be the head coach over there unless something drastic happens in the next year or a couple of years. I think that's going to be a lot of fun for both fan bases. I think we already kind of, when we play each other now, outside of playing each other, we really don't pay attention to each other. But when we do in football or basketball, it becomes a pretty nasty rivalry back and forth. A fun one though. So I think that's going to be a little bit extra to that game in a couple of years. That'll be a lot of fun.
No doubt.
By the way, we'll take care of you when you come down to Louisiana, by the way. So be sure to let us know.
I'll take you up on that for sure.
All right, let's talk about one more thing as a whole. It's a Sun Belt Conference, and we're looking at divisions and football, but also baseball as a whole. And we know that a lot of the Eastern Division teams in football really campaign for Western Kentucky to be the next school that we would invite after Texas State left. Of course, there was a contingent of schools from the App State area. I think there was a voting block there that decided they wanted a team that was more west. So talk to us a little bit about the Louisiana Tech situation. I know it's probably a joke at this point because all the legal stuff that's going on, and we're all frustrated with that. But, after getting to know Louisiana Tech, the program as a whole, what is the general feel about how that pick ended up as Louisiana Tech coming to the Sun Belt from a JMU perspective?
From our perspective, it's pretty interesting because honestly, a lot of people around here don't care. And I know that sounds bad, but being on the east side and again, we played Texas State this past year in football. So, and we played you guys too. So we won't get that cycle again for 3 or 4 more years. So we won't even play Louisiana or Louisiana Tech now in football because they'll probably just slide into where Texas State was.
But you will in baseball and basketball. So that will
for
be
sure. For sure.
Thing. Yeah.
For sure,
but football drives the bus at the end.
It does, and that's why a lot of our fans are just like, whoever, whatever works. It doesn't really matter. I think most of our fans were hoping that it was going to be like a Western Kentucky, somebody like that, maybe somebody from the MAC coming in. I think that a lot of folks around here thought it was weird to have a third Louisiana school come in, but just because it's not the same division and you're only going to play them once in basketball, you may not play them in baseball. I mean, there's a situation where you're just not going to play them a lot. So we don't see the West schools a ton. So there's not the rivalries that we have with the East schools. I mean, we see the Marshalls and ODUs and Apps and Coastals every single year, twice a year in basketball. So you obviously have those rivalries. So a lot of people have just kind of put on the back burner and be like, okay, yeah, whenever we play Louisiana Tech, it is what it is, So that's kind of the sentiment around here. And even myself, I looked at Louisiana Tech when they looked like they were the team that was going to be coming in, and is it a good fit? I think so, but it is what it is. Whatever the Sun Belt wants to do with that other school to put them in the West, it is what it is. So that's kind of the sentiment I think around here. That a lot of people honestly didn't really care who it was going to be. I think they were hoping it would be somebody from the MAC, maybe somebody a little bit closer, but I don't know that anybody really cares that much around here.
Yeah. Louisiana Tech fans will hate to hear that. They're very cocky and they think that they're known all across the world for their brand. So
they're not.
Yeah. Well, thank you for pointing that out for us. Let's move on to baseball before I start getting extra snarky. We're sitting now. You guys are sitting now, I think, at 13-14 overall.
Yeah.
Is your record, so right below 500, 4-5 in Sun Belt Conference play, which is better than we're doing right now. You know, we're toward the bottom of the standings in Sun Belt Conference action at 3-6, 18-11. Excuse me, 18-11 overall. We had a fast start to the season, got ranked, and then as soon as we got ranked, things just started happening that gives us cause for concern going into this weekend. Now, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Obviously, it's only the third series of the season, but for both of our teams, I feel like this is a really big series because either one of us, like you guys being 4-5, us being 3-6, we got to pick up some wins in conference before we start getting deeper into it. Is that the feeling on the JMU side as well?
100%. When I open the broadcast coming up tomorrow, I think that's kind of the sentiment. This is a huge series, I think, for both teams. Probably in a way, it's almost bigger for JMU because they're home games. You need to win your home games, but obviously in Louisiana's case, they're below JMU in the standings, and again, they've got to pick up some ground. So the Dukes they got to a great start this year. Just last year, it was a struggle. They made the NCAA tournament 2 years ago, knocked Louisiana out of the Sun Belt tournament, and really had a really good team. Went to a regional final, a loss to NC State down in Raleigh, but then they lost a majority of their team to graduation. I think 5 guys were drafted, and then they had some guys transfer as well. So they were left kind of bare bones and didn't go a ton into the transfer portal, relied on some younger players. And last year was just really a struggle where they went 17-38 and didn't make the Sun Belt tournament. And it was pretty disappointing. And so, you know, when they made the NCAA tournament, it was the first time in 11 years. They had quite a string of consecutive losing seasons. And there were some people that were kind of calling for Marlon Eikenberry's head. And then he has the NCAA tournament season, a great year. And then last year, another step back. He got a contract extension after the NCAA tournament run. And then some folks were kind of chattering again, but he's done a pretty good job of bringing a couple of transfers, but then some high school guys have stepped up. They got out to a pretty hot start this year after they lost to Florida State to begin the season. And it looked like this is a much improved team. I'll up front, I'll say that this is a much improved baseball team in JMU, but their pitching has really struggled here in Sun Belt play. But they found some ways to win. They won their first 3 games of the season. They beat Georgia Southern here at home, but then went to Coastal, and they weren't competitive. They got run ruled in every single game. So that was a little alarming that they got run ruled every game. I thought they could be competitive down there, maybe get a game.
But now you know how good Coastal
100%. So. And right now, the league, they're 9-0. Everybody else has at least 3 losses after 9 games. So I think it's wide open. And that's why I don't think it's panic time for JMU or for Louisiana with this series. But as you mentioned, you need to start to get some steam and start to pick up some wins. And especially against teams that are in the same boat as you need to show that maybe you're better than that team and maybe take a step forward. So I think this is a big series. The Dukes are much improved from a year ago, but their pitching has been really bad here lately. They're walking more than they're striking out. And I think they're going to change it this weekend. We haven't seen yet, but they had 2 true freshmen in their starting rotation, in their weekend rotation. So, and they got out to really good starts. But now that they've been in Sun Belt play, they're just getting no length with their starting rotation, and that's taxing the bullpen, and it's made for some long bad games here lately. So we'll see if they can get some better starting pitching. That's the key, because offensively they've been solid. They're in the middle of the pack in the Sun Belt in all the statistical categories, and that's actually they've dropped off a little bit. But offense has been solid all year long. It's their pitching staff that's really struggled.
Yeah, we're going to get into what I think about that in a second, as far as from our perspective. But
yeah, I can imagine.
I do want to say it's interesting in the 2 series that we've played. When we were on the road, you guys swept us. When you came to Louisiana, we swept you. So now we returned back there. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't know. I'm just kind of a nerd when it comes to those numbers, but you guys have been better at home this season. For sure. What do you think attributes to that? Is it the field? Are you guys built for the ballpark that you play in? Do you have good fan support, or is this just being home? You play a little bit better.
I think that's what it is, honestly. Our park's not great. It's one of the worst in the Sun Belt. It is what it is. And our fans are kind of fair weather fans. They're going to show up. And they're not like the teams on the west side or coastal Carolina. It's just different here. And part of what I said earlier, there hasn't been a ton of success lately. The one season, besides that, it's usually been 500 or below 500. Now, they've had decent success. Since they came into the Sun Belt, there were a lot of people that were concerned. When the Dukes made the move to the Sun Belt from the CAA, obviously it was football driven, but it was going to be a better football league, a better basketball league, all of that, a better league in almost every sport or sports except for softball and baseball. The Sun Belt, I mean, in the CAA, it was not great. So they were making a huge jump to get into one of the best baseball leagues, one of the best softball leagues, and could they compete at all? And they've actually done a pretty good job. Last year was the only year the baseball team didn't make the Sun Belt tournament. Before that, they had been able to make a little bit of a run. Obviously got in the Final Four 2 years ago. So they've had a little success here in the Sun Belt, more than I think some people thought they would. And softball's been so-so. They got to the championship a year ago, but they were the 9 seed and still got there. So it's been a little bit of an adjustment coming from the CAA, where it wasn't a great league, into the Sun Belt, where it is. For some schools, that's the number 2 sport behind football. that's just the way it is. So I think they need to pump a little bit more money into baseball and try and get it going a little bit more. But it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out for this team this year and just kind of how it goes.
Speaking of the offensive side of the ball, you mentioned that they're doing pretty well this year. I believe they're 71st in the country with batting average at .292, while the Cajuns are a staggering 248th in the country with a .250 batting average. What's been good about JMU's approach at the plate this year?
Well, the Cajuns are last in the Sun Belt of the 14 teams too. I was noticing today, which again it's been offensively for JMU. It's mainly been fun to see, because in this day and age of college athletics, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. This day and age of college athletics, you just never know what's going to happen, who's going to be back from year to year. And the one thing that I've been impressed with is they've had some juniors and seniors who have been in the program now for 2, 3, 4 years really develop. And you just don't see that anymore, really, in football, basketball, baseball. You don't see anybody develop anymore because they're jumping schools. They're transferring from year to year. And you have, especially for basketball nowadays, it's one and done, and you go to the next school. And you can't develop anybody like you used to. But we've had some guys here. Ike Schmidley's a guy that comes to mind. Ike Schmidley, Kyle Langley, Reese Moody, guys that were starters a year ago, that they struggled, and they'd be the first to tell you that. They didn't play great. They all hit low 200s. And now they're all over 300. And I think they've just worked their tails off to get better. And that's what's kind of carried this team offensively. They don't have a ton of pop. They have some better than a year ago, but they've got a lot of speed. The one thing they do offensively is put a lot of pressure on teams. They're second in the Sun Belt in stolen bases. They will try and sacrifice a lot. They'll squeeze a lot. So they get a lot of base hits that way as well, just some of the small ball aspect of the game. And then they brought in a couple of transfers in Clay Thompson, Wyatt Campbell, guys that have started to really step up. Clay Thompson's playing great in center field. He's been red hot of late. I think he went 5 out of 9 in the Arkansas State series. He had 3 doubles yesterday or the other day against Georgetown in their midweek game. So he's starting to come on and play pretty well. So they got a couple of transfers, and then the guys that were playing last year that struggled, they've just improved a ton. And the one thing, they brought in a new offensive coordinator, so to speak, or hitting coach, and Tanner Biagini, and he's been a lot of different places. And it's similar to what they were doing before with Mike Roberts, who's now at Mississippi State. But they put a ton of pressure on you. The Dukes will try and, again, kind of dance out on base paths a lot. They'll try and steal a lot of bases. They want to put guys in motion a lot. They're going to hit and run a lot. They just want to put guys in motion to have the defense always on their toes and always be thinking of what they're going to do the next play. And again, if you can put the ball in play, then all of a sudden you've got a guy in motion. What are we going to do here? And just puts a lot of pressure on the defense. And I think that's really helped this team a lot this year, because they're not going to hit a ton of bombs, but they're going to put the ball in play, and they've had some guys that have been through the program kind of develop the last 2 or 3 years that I think have kind of carried this team, and that's a big reason of why they're much better than they were a year ago.
And you mentioned the pitching staff has struggled a bit. The team ERA is above 7. What do you think, outside of like the starters not getting their pitching going early, what do you think is like the biggest issue? Is there a change in philosophy, or is it something that they're just not seeing right away?
I think there's a lot of youth on this staff. As I mentioned, the 2 true freshmen are in the starting rotation on the weekend, and they've kind of hit their freshman wall right now. I think there could be a change this weekend with one of the freshmen probably not starting and coming out of the pen instead. But that's the one thing I mentioned that earlier, as you talked about. The starters are not giving them hardly any length. They're giving them about 2 innings. And then all of a sudden the bullpen comes in. You're taxing them in game 1, and then you've got to try and piece it together in games 2 and 3, especially on the weekend series. That's hard to do. So they're not getting any length from their starting staff. And the one thing they're doing a really poor job of right now is attacking the strike zone. They're walking way too many guys right now. They're one of the worst teams as far as allowing walks from their pitching staff. They're put just too many free bases, and that's one thing that that we had a midweek. What was the last week against Radford? They walked 11 guys and hit 3 more. I mean, there's 14 free passes, and Radford didn't walk anybody and only hit 1. So that's you kind of look at kind of the basketball mindset where there's. You look at maybe turnovers or something like that gives a team extra possessions. All of a sudden, you're putting guys on base. Well, then all of a sudden, it's much easier to score. They lose by 4, but there was 13 runners difference in free bags. And they've done that just way too often here of late. There's just too many free passes. And I think that's the biggest issue with this pitching staff is they're just not throwing strikes. You guys probably talk to a ton of baseball, softball coaches. The one thing that all of them will say at every level, major league level, college level, little league level with my 10-year-old, just throw strikes. Just throw strikes. And
That drives me nuts, Dave. I'm telling you, man.
And I was having a conversation the other day with Coach Eikenberry, and it was kind of off the cuff, and it's just like, man, these guys are college pitchers. Throw strikes. I mean, you have guys behind you to play defense for a reason, and I know you want to make the perfect pitch, and that's the one thing they're almost trying to be too perfect. Let's throw it on the edge, but they're not getting those calls. So let's change things up a little bit. And it's we've had some long games because of so many walks and free bags and hit batters. JMU, I talk about walks and hit batters. They lead the league in hit batters on the season. So it's not just the walks, it's hitting batters. So that's the one issue with this staff. And then you do that, you get behind of hitters, then all of a sudden you have to throw one right down the middle. Well, that's why the batting average is so bad against right now, is that they can't finish guys off. They're getting behind of hitters. Then when they do throw strikes, it's a 2-0 count. It's a 3-1 count, and you're going to have to throw a strike, and then all of a sudden it's an easy pitch to hit. So that's the one thing they've got to figure out. They've got to get ahead of hitters early and try and dictate it on their terms and not on the hitters' terms. And that's been the issue for this team. And it's not just a couple guys. It's not the starters. It's everybody right now. And so they've got to be much better at that moving forward. Or they're going to have to score a lot of runs to win games if they don't improve that.
One thing that I'm noticing from your stats is you guys as a team have stolen 82 bases in 93 attempts. That's pretty impressive. And that goes to, I mean, you're not going to, I feel like our teams are a lot alike in that we're not going to hit for power.
I agree.
But we can hit a gapper, or we can get on base. We can manufacture a run. Coach Deggs, if you've watched him for any extended period of time, will drive you nuts because he will take a chance and bunt with 2 outs and nobody on just to do it, or send a guy from third on a safety squeeze when you're not expecting.
Coach Eikenberry is very similar.
That's what I was going to ask. Is that the similar type of coaching that you're getting on your end as well?
There's no doubt about that. When I got here I guess it would have been the 21 season, 21-22 is when I got here. That's one thing that a lot of people around here told me around the program. They're just like, they call it Ike ball, and that's a lot of small ball, a lot of bunting in situations where you wouldn't think you'd bunt. You've got your best home run hitter up, he's bunting. Even with 1 out and a guy at first base, you're going to bunt him to get to 2 outs and get him to second base just to give that one guy an opportunity to drive him in. So there's a ton of small ball. They've tried to steal a little bit more and not maybe do quite as bit of small ball as they have in the past. They want to try and steal a bag instead of try and bunt him over. So and that's the one thing I talked about earlier. They just try and put a ton of pressure on the defense. And I've seen it work a ton of times this year where they just put a ton of pressure with the ability to run the bases, steal bags. It does make teams very aware of that. It makes the pitcher throw over to first a ton, and maybe it gets him out of his rhythm a little bit. But I agree with you. I think these two managers are very similar in how they go about their business. And again, a little unconventional. But again, if you don't have guys that can rake and hit out of the yard, then you need to find ways to score. And that's one thing Coach Eikenberry has said from day one. there are a million ways to score a run in baseball. So it's not just hitting a home run or hitting a double, whatever. There's so many ways to score a run in baseball. So we're going to do some unorthodox things to be able to put guys into position to hopefully score some runs.
I'm going to ask you this friend to friend. Not the voice of JMU, but friend to friend.
Okay.
Does sometimes it drives you nuts when they do some of those unconventional things at the most inopportune time and it doesn't work? When it works, it looks genius.
Yes.
But it doesn't work a lot. Okay, so we're not alone here.
I won't ever say it on the air. Like if he does something and I kind of mentioned earlier, you've got your best home run hitter up and you lay down a bunt. Drives me nuts. I'm not probably going to say that on the air, but I'll say it with you guys. We've become friends, so I'll be honest. But there are some things that they do that I'm just like, what are we doing here?
Do you know Jay Walker? I'm sure you do. Jay Walker, the voice of the Cajuns. I think one of the first, I've known Jay since I was a kid. One of the first times I ever heard him publicly on air get frustrated with the coach's decision is when we sent someone we shouldn't have on a weak fly ball to like short center, and he sends the guy from third and he's out by 20 feet and he goes, whack, dead duck. And like that was the most, I think, animated he's ever gotten, being pissed off at a decision made, because we all saw it coming, but he was going to send it from third, and sure enough, he got thrown out. So I am just glad we have, folks that we can feel the same way about some of the decisions that were made.
I'm trying to think of the situation. I can't think of it offhand. I was calling the JMU softball game last weekend, and they did something, and I was just like, I was floored because it was a little unconventional. And I'm trying to think of a situation now. I can't even remember what it was, but they did something. And I might even said like, well, I'm not sure I would have done that. But
that's as far as you'll go, right?
I think that's as far as I'll go. But I was just like, oh, and again, it didn't work. So I think that's why I said that. But, it is what it is.
And sometimes, and of course, you guys have such a deep rooted football history that sometimes those fans who do kind of go into the baseball world expect the same kind of quick results in football. And if you drop a couple games and they're like, we're terrible. Yeah. So I can only imagine how that is on your side, because we get that as well.
It's terrible. Our fans, I love them, but they're awful.
I am not going to comment on that. I would give my opinion, but again, we're not yelling at each other these days. So we're trying to,
that's a good thing.
We're trying to keep that away. Let's talk about both of our problems, and I guess from your perspective, you mentioned it. You're getting short innings from the Friday, Saturday, Sunday starters. Your bullpen comes in because they're not extending the innings. They're coming in and have to clean up the mess. We don't really have that much of a problem in that regard. We do have an issue where our pitchers will come in and give a great performance, and then you and Lane, I don't know if you have the stats up about how many home runs we've given up this season.
That's one thing that I've noticed.
48 home runs
we've given up this season. And a lot of them are in the last 10 games. I mean, we gave up 8 against Texas State, which was absolutely insane. But I think for us, our issue is that when we bring in a reliever, they may get 1 or 2 guys out, but we're just waiting for them to throw that pitch that's going to be over the wall. And that's been happening lately. If you have to look at your lineup and say, okay, if these guys, are in that situation where you've got a starting pitcher that's in trouble, you bring in a reliever from the bullpen, from the bullpen, you guys are in a position with 2 or 3 guys on base, and who is at the plate? If there are a couple of guys on your team that are at the plate this weekend in that situation, you have confidence in that they're going to hit it over the fence.
Over the fence, our guys are a little inconsistent with hitting it over the fence.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying in general. It doesn't matter who it is. Just think of somebody in the lineup.
One guy that I have a ton of confidence in, I mentioned his name earlier, but Kyle Langley. He's our starter in left field, and he was a starter as a true freshman on the regional team 2 years ago. And he's come up with some huge clutch hits. It's not always been a home run, but he has ability to hit a home run. He's hit a couple this season. But he's a guy that I have a ton of confidence in. He had a walk-off to beat Georgia Southern a couple weeks ago when they rallied from a couple down late in the game, and he had the walk-off in the 9th inning. So he's a guy that I have a ton of confidence in. Klay Thompson's another that's red hot right now. So if there is a guy that might be able to hit over the fence, he's starting to become really hot here of late. He did against Arkansas State this past weekend. So those are two guys that I think I have a ton of confidence in. Ike Schmidley is probably another. He's really stepped up here now in his junior year. Langley and Schmidley are both juniors now and have been in the program the entire time. So those are the three that I probably have the most confidence in. But that is one number, when you guys brought that up, because the pitching numbers have been pretty solid all year long, but the home runs really stand out among everything else. And I'm sure there's been a lot of inopportune home runs that have come at some bad times and have cost the Cajuns a game or two. But that's the one number that really stands out, because for the most part, the pitching numbers have been really good. Then all of a sudden they lead the Sun Belt in home runs allowed in league games even. That was pretty eye-opening to me that they've allowed a lot of home runs.
It is bizarre. I think for me, this is one of the toughest series for me to give any type of prediction on how it's going to go.
Yeah.
It could go
Yeah,
1,
I have
2,
no
2,
idea.
and 1. Yeah, either way. So that's what I was going to ask you, just a gut feeling. Are you feeling the same way as me? Because I don't know. This could go any of many ways, and who knows what might happen this weekend.
Yeah, I really don't know. This team has been so up and down. Even in a game, it's so up and down. They can be good for 3 or 4 innings and then look like a team that is not played baseball ever for about 3 more innings. So I think they've been on the road the last 2 weekends. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be a kind of a shot in the arm for them to get back home. They opened up against Georgia Southern, then they went to Coastal, got swept, went to Arkansas State, and they've also had a midweek on the road this past Tuesday when they went to Georgetown and near the D.C. area. So they've been on the road a ton lately. So I think it's a little shot in the arm to be at home. So I do think that's going to help them this weekend. It's kind of a short week this week. Again, the Cajuns had a midweek as well, and they had to go on the road Tuesday. Now they're traveling to Harrisonburg. So I think that all plays into JMU's advantage. So I feel like they probably have a leg up, and I think somebody's going to take 2 out of 3. I don't think it'll be a sweep. I think somebody's going to take 2 out of 3. I probably give the edge to JMU just the way that they picked up a good win. They rallied for a win against Georgetown. They played okay against Arkansas State. They had a good rally for a victory there. So let's see if the key for them is to get off to good starts. When they don't, they really struggle. And that's some of that pitching staff that we talked about.
A couple more questions. Lane, if you have anything else, we can ask you that as well. But I do want to ask you, I'm going to go back to football because I think we've talked as much. I think we know the situation this weekend, right? I think we're both in the same boat.
Yeah,
we'll see
I agree.
what happens.
Yeah.
May the best team win.
Yeah.
So going back to football, I did want to ask you this about Napier's approach to NIL. I know he had unlimited funds at Florida, and recruit. I mean, his recruiting here, Florida, like he is going to get guys there, but it's a different world, obviously, in the Sun Belt trying to get NIL money. What's the approach to that? Now that Napier's, the head coach at JMU, what is his strategy going into next season?
Well, he's done a lot with the recruiting department. It was ironic. We were at the hotel in Oregon getting set for the CFP game. And one of the assistant coaches that was on the previous staff, he was on his way out. He was going to go with the staff to Oregon. Again, it wasn't known at that time, but I knew, and we were just sitting and talking. And obviously Coach Napier had been hired, and he's just like, you know what, JMU is going to be fine, because the recruiting staff that they're putting together is unlike anything JMU's ever had, anything like any Sun Belt team really has ever had. He goes, if we would have had what Coach Napier is bringing in and establishing at JMU, we could have got 2 or 3 more guys. Now, certainly they did well enough and got guys good enough to get to the CFP, but they're just like, we missed out on some guys because we didn't have the ability to kind of evaluate all of these guys and do it the way Coach Napier is now doing it with the staff that he's put together. Jacob LaFrance was at Louisiana with you guys for him, and he's his personnel guy, but he's amazing. He's been awesome. And then the staff that they put together. So to have a coach that was leaving to go to UCLA say that about Coach Napier and what he's doing here, that's something different that's never been done. I think he has a vision that he wants to. He mentioned this a few times when he first got hired, that he wants to make this. How did he say it? He wants to make it kind of normalize this, or make it kind of the norm now for JMU, which it hasn't been, and mainly for Sun Belt schools at the Power 4 level, again, it's normal for them. They have all
Oh
of
yeah,
the
you can go
funds and
500
everything.
and make the CFP, right?
100%. So they've got all of these funds and everything, but he wants to do it at a G6 school like JMU. And so they've done a good job of raising money. They've done a really good job. So I don't know the exact number, and I don't know that I should give it out if I did know it, but they're probably top 10 in G6 in money as far as NIL goes. So I think Coach Napier, he didn't take a huge contract. He didn't ask for a huge contract. Obviously, he's getting paid from Florida, so that helps that he doesn't have to take a huge contract. But he even made mention that that's not his goal right now, because he wants to get an elite staff around him. He wants to have some of that money so that they can use for NIL. So that's some of his approach that he's trying to do is not I'm not going to go make these millions of dollars and I'm going to use some of that I don't have to use because Florida's still paying me to put to other aspects of the organization like NIL, like the coaching staff. And he's hired, I think there's been 35 coaches that have been hired since he got here, and a lot of new positions have been added. They didn't have 35 coaches.
Oh, if you ever saw the Florida picture of their players and staff, they had more staff than players, man. It was incredible.
So there's a lot more staff members now than there ever has been. So that's kind of his approach. And again, they go about it. I sat down with Jacob LaFrance and really kind of dove into how they do the player personnel stuff. It's pretty fascinating to see all the things that they do and the files they have on all these kids and how they go about their business and what they're looking for. But as far as NIL goes, they've got a pretty good chunk of change that they can use, one of the best in the Sun Belt, and they should. I mean, with what they've done here and everything, there should be enough support to be able to get that. But I know they're always trying to get more. It's never enough, no matter how much you have. It's an
arms race, man. It really is. That's what it is.
And let's be honest, we're just teams in our league are just never going to be able to even come close to competing with the big boys. And you just have to try and do what you can do and see if you can sustain that for as long as possible. But he's got a ton of support. That's part of the reason he took this job. Is Matt Rohn, the AD, now is in his second year. He really understands it. He's a former lawyer, and so he really understands the nuances of this new day and age of college athletics. And I think he is on top of everything right now as far as college athletics goes. So I think he is the perfect person to help lead it. And his vision, I think, is what helped Coach Napier look at that and their vision together on what they can do and how to sustain the program, because it's not broken, certainly. And you need to continue to try and elevate that. And they're trying to build a lot of momentum off of the CFP. They talk about it a lot, that, hey, this was a program that was in the college football playoff, and they're using that to their advantage so they can hopefully sometime get there again.
When do you think the breakaway is going to happen? Because I feel like the SEC is going to go do their own thing. And I was so very adamant about that not happening. But now the more that things kind of shuffle, I mean, you look at Wake Forest, they're not going to pay, they're not going to have a $200 million budget like SEC teams do, or even the Big 12. So do you think that's coming sooner than later?
I do. I really do.
And are you like me? Are you kind of like, okay, go do your mini NFL and let us do our thing?
I am now. I wasn't like that even a year ago. I'm not sure because obviously with JMU making the jump here recently, it's essentially what it's going to be again, is you're going to have another FBS FCS split is what it's going to be. So when JMU made the jump to FBS, just like, all right, we're part of the big boys now, now we can see what we can do. And obviously it's been a magical run here of these 4 years on the success that this program has had since making the jump. But especially now getting to go see what Oregon has, what they're doing, their quarterback makes $4 million. JMU does not have $4 million for its entire team.
NFL rookies aren't even making $4 million, man. That is insane.
So to see this, and there was just an article here recently, I think On3 did it, where now there's a cap of $20 million, but there's so many ways to get around it with the NIL that, again, there's these $40 million rosters right now.
TSAB, we call him TSAB, the school across the basin, LSU. Perfect example. Lane Kiffin comes over, I need 20 million. Now he's at 40.
Exactly. So there's so many ways around
the rule. It's going around the rules, cheating, but not cheating.
So to circle back, I think I am okay with it now. Let them do their thing. And because no matter what, and I know Louisiana fans, JMU fans, we can compete with those teams. We can compete with that. Well, we're all going to let you know a secret. No, you can't. And once in a while, you could have a year like JMU did. and compete with some big boys. Again, we showed that JMU last year could compete with some of the best teams in the country. They competed with Louisville, and that's a team that beat Miami, who made the national championship game, competed with Oregon in the second half. So there could be years where you can compete with teams, but you just cannot do it on a regular basis. So I am okay now with let the Power Fours go and let us just, be who we are, and we'll have our own national championship. I think that it kind of goes back to the FBS, FCS, and it is what it is. But I think that's probably going to happen. And honestly, I think I'm okay with it now. I wasn't before, and maybe had JMU not made the CFP, at least I got to taste that, because then obviously not going to taste it again if there's another split. There could be another playoff at this level, whatever it's going to be called. But I think I am okay with it now, seeing what they can do and just not knowing that our level can never, ever, ever get to that point. I think I'm okay with the split now.
Yeah, I look, I want to preserve the pageantry, the traditions of the true purpose and reason for college football.
Yeah.
I think it'll be an elevated FCS. I don't think we're going to be at a level where they look at us down. We have one game a year on TV. I think it'll be a much elevated level, but I also think you're going to see a lot of surprises in schools that are maybe in the lower part of the SEC or the lower part of the Big 12 or the Big 10 that don't want to commit to the outrageous budgets that they're paying for that, and it's just not worth it. And we'll be playing them in our leagues in a few years, so that'll be interesting to see how it all plays out, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, last question I have for you regarding money, because we're still on that topic, talking about funding. What would it take for JMU to fund baseball at a higher level? Because obviously you guys are a prestigious university, very well respected, high commitment to baseball, to football and basketball. Yeah. What would it take for that next step in baseball? Because that's a big deal to a lot of the Sun Belt, and I think a healthy JMU in both diamond sports is a healthy Sun Belt.
It's a great question, and there's a lot of people kind of asking that question right now. And do you need to show that there is sustained success to have that? That's what some people are claiming. Give me 2 or 3 years of getting close to a regional, getting deep into the Sun Belt tournament, whatever it is. Is that the answer? I don't know that that's the answer, because sometimes if you build it, they will come. If you put the funds into the program, then all of a sudden you can recruit better. You can do different things a lot better. So I think there's a happy medium. I do think, and there's a lot of talk about it right now, because you're right. In the Sun Belt, you have to have good diamond sports. And it just is what it is. And it's a great diamond sport league. And JMU does not want to be left behind. A couple of years ago, when Mark Byington was the basketball coach, Kurt Signetti was the football coach, and there that year, in every sport across the board had an above 500 record. So everybody, all of our fans were just like, we're in everything school. And they try and still do that. But it's hard to do that when you're not making a Sun Belt tournament in baseball, or the tennis program is struggling, or something, or one of the other programs is doing whatever they're doing. So there has to be some consistency with some of the funds being. And again, our stadium isn't great; it's got to be improved. The press box isn't great; that's got to be improved. And Matt Rowe knows this; he's talked about this. It's just taking a little bit more time, I think, than what some people are expecting, hoping to do. I think there is a plan to start to pump money into the program. Coach Eichenberry has been here for 11 years now, and he's a guy that loves JMU. But is it time to make a change there? I don't know. I don't think so, because he knows how to win. He's won at a high level throughout his career. Is a younger coach going to come in? His salary isn't great. So, I mean, do they need to bump his salary up? They need to pump a lot of money into it to become elite, or at least top half of the Sun Belt. They go to these other places. They were at Coastal 2 weekends ago. When they came to your place last year, Coach Eichenberry comes back and we have conversations about, man, that place is gorgeous. That place is beautiful. It'd be nice to have something like that. So there's always conversations, but I don't know that it's going to take something. I just think somebody needs to do it. I think I don't know that they need to find one booster or a few boosters or whatever it is. They just need to do it. And there's been a lot of talk ever since I got to JMU, again, 5 years ago. There's been talk about that. But guess what? Since I've been here, nothing's happened.
Yeah,
nothing
and
has
unfortunately,
happened.
Sometimes it does take a coaching change for them to commit
Sometimes it does.
And that's unfortunate.
And I don't want to see that happen, but it does sometimes.
Right. But in the reverse, psychology of that, if you build the stadium to recruit to, then maybe he would have better results, better recruits, et cetera. So
Correct.
it's a twofold. It's a very complicated deal, but I hope you guys do eventually somehow figure that out, because again, you're a very well-respected member of the Sun Belt. We love having you, even though you're way in the East, and we do think about you a lot because we hate all the schools. Except for us. So it's fun to have that little rivalry going. And your fan base is when we play each other, it gets pretty interesting. Dave,
Yes,
appreciate you, man. Look, next time you're in Lafayette, please hit us up. Let us know you'll be in town. We'd love to take you out for a drink and some crawfish or shrimp or whatever you'll dare to try in South Louisiana. But tell us how we can find you.
Oh, you can Twitter, X is probably the easiest. It's at Dave Riggert. That's probably the easiest. Put a lot of stuff there, and then you can kind of go some different ways that way as well. If there's any Cajun fans that want to listen to our broadcast, if they come to Harrisonburg this weekend, we're on ESPN Harrisonburg there, 106.9 FM and 1360 AM, or ESPNHarrisonburg.com. So those are some of the spots. I've got a daily show on ESPN Harrisonburg every day at noon Eastern time, and it's a lot of JMU talk, obviously. So we do a lot of that with all the coaches and doing a lot with spring ball right now. So if you want to find out anything about JMU, follow me on social media, listen to the show a little bit, but pretty much JMU all the time with the Dukes around here and the passionate fan base that we do have.
Is it simulcast with the TV broadcast?
It is not.
Oh, man. Okay. I was hoping it was. Maybe I'll have to sync you up for one game just to get a taste of your call. But, man, we appreciate you taking the time. It is always fun to chat with you. Anytime you need us to do the same for you, please let us know.
Will do.
But appreciate your time, man, and good luck to you guys this weekend.
Nick and Lane, thank you very much. Anytime, my friends.
All right. Take care, sir.